Hey there, Coastal Bend. Here is your 10 p.m. update on Beryl. Here's a look at our weather impact. Beryl Day essentially is going to be on Monday. We're going to start to see impacts as early as tomorrow evening, but the main event going to be Sunday night into the day Monday. Of course, we are expecting all types of tropical hazards such as wind, rain, and surf. So the best thing that you can do at home is stay updated with us right here on Channel 3, not only here on air, but also online and on our app. Here's a current look at Beryl, the update from 10 p.m. It's hot off the press. Beryl not looking all that great right now on satellite, but you can still see it has that spin going to it with that new burst of tropical convection. Again, still a tropical storm, 60-mile-per-hour winds, 70-mile-per-hour gusts. And your phone was probably going crazy at 4 o'clock this afternoon. That was from all of the hurricane warnings and tropical storm warnings being issued yesterday, and throughout part of today they were only watches. This afternoon they got upgraded. So what that means for us is that we can see hurricane and tropical storm conditions respectively within the next 36 hours, and these stretch all the way along the Texas Gulf Coast and even south of Lake Charles in Louisiana. So here's a check on the entire tropics. You can see not much going on in the Atlantic, but in the Gulf of Mexico, that is where we currently find Beryl, still expected to be a Category 1 at landfall. So let's break down this forecast for you. Here is a view of water vapor. You can kind of think of this like an X-ray in the atmosphere. Beryl right now does have a little bit of Saharan dust kind of swirling around it. Maybe you were able to see it on that last graphic, but you can also see dry air here in this orangish brownish color that's kind of swirling around into Beryl. Now we also have another player around Beryl, kind of in the Gulf of Mexico, but it is fading fast. It's an upper level low pressure and it's fading out. Like I said, that is causing a little bit of shear in this area. Now yesterday there was a whole lot of shear right where Beryl is and on the rest of its path, but I'm posting a Facebook post here in the next couple of minutes that's going to show what that looks like. There's not a lot anymore, so that is setting the stage for Beryl to be able to start re-strengthening on its approach to the Texas coast. Now this low pressure as well as this big trough right here, you can barely see kind of this icy blue color up here in the central plains. That is kind of acting like a magnet. This trough, it's bringing down, we'll call it in air quotes, a cold front to central Texas and northern Texas. It's the middle of July, but that is kind of attracting it and helping pull Beryl around this area of high pressure here to our east through this weakening in the atmosphere between those two areas of high pressure. That one on the west coast causing a massive heat wave at this time. For us, we are still focused on Beryl here in the coastal bend. We've got those watches and warnings up and down the coast. Here is that newest forecast cone at 10 p.m. Again, still expected to be a Category 1 hurricane, 85-mile-per-hour winds at landfall with 100-mile-per-hour gusts, still focusing on that San Antonio Bay to Matagorda Bay area with that center line going right down the middle of the forecast cone. But this is a great time to remind everyone that the forecast cone says nothing about impacts that may extend beyond the forecast cone. This is just where the center of the storm could go. So if that storm goes right here on the edge, that forecast still verifies. So that's why it's so important to keep up with the latest information on the forecast, and we're going to be the ones to give it to you and keep you on top of it. So you can see that forecast cone bending around the area of high pressure, and the forecast time is kind of inching up just a little bit. If you remember yesterday, that forecast landfall time was 7 a.m., maybe a little bit after in the later morning. Now it's scooting up to a little before 7 a.m. So that is something else that we will keep track of for you. With this latest forecast cone, you can see that now the spaghetti plots, they are right down the middle. Earlier they were congregated, words are hard, congregated around the middle and then a little bit to the right as well. So now you can see that forecast cone right smack on top of those spaghetti models, which means we are seeing a lot more forecast congruency. And here's what the last three forecast models look like. These are the center lines from the hurricane center. The red one is the most recent. The blue was the one at 4 p.m. So you can see the tiniest shift possible over to the east. And then this was the forecast cone from this morning. So we're still continuing continuing to see that eastward march right over San Antonio Bay and Matagorda Bay. So if you're not familiar with those bays, the towns around them, places like Seadrift, Port Lavaca, Palacios, places like that are kind of becoming the focus for the center of that forecast cone. But again, any minor shift can really make a big change in the impacts we feel here in the coastal bend. So let's break down those impacts for you. The wind, of course, is top of everyone's mind with the hurricane. 70 to 90 mile per hour winds with gusts up to 100 miles per hour right on the center of that forecast line and just a bit to the east. The further out you go from there, then those winds are going to be calming down, but it's pretty much going to be a breezy day for everyone along the Gulf Coast and even into the brush country. 20 to 30 mile per hour winds with gusts up to 40. Here in Corpus Christi, gusts up to 60, sustained winds up to 50 miles per hour. These are going to start to increase, I should say, heading into tomorrow evening and especially tomorrow night through Monday morning. As for rainfall, the highest total is going to fall to the right side of that forecast cone and right along the center line as well. For us in the coastal bend, we're in line for a couple inches of rain. I've got us at 2 to 4 inches here in Corpus Christi, but of course it's possible to change as this line shifts back and forth, and we could see it wiggle back and forth a little bit more, but it is beginning to focus on this area right here. As for our rain chances the rest of the week, they are pretty low. We do have more tropical moisture coming in later this week, but of course our focus is on the next couple of days with Beryl. That is our highest rain chance, as well as the surf. Not only the actual surf itself, but storm surge. These waves that are really high, that's going to combine with the increased wave periods to give us a high rip current risk, but it's also going to be able to push water further inland. So with Alberto a couple weeks ago, we saw 3.5 feet of surge. Now we are expected to see 3 to 5 feet here in the coastal bend. To our north, where that forecast cone is centered over San Antonio and Matagorda Bays, 4 to 6 feet, and the further out that you go, the lower that surge is expected to be. So let's take it day by day. We are through Saturday. It was a great day to do preps. We only had a couple showers to our north. It was hot and humid, a typical July day. Tomorrow, that is when Beryl starts to approach South Texas. We see some downpours from outer bands starting on Monday. That is Beryl day when we see the strongest impacts, and Tuesday Beryl moves off. So here is where our current mindset is at. If you are around this forecast cone area, that purple, that is when we should be acting on our hurricane plan for the northern half of the coastal bend. The southern half is still in that alert stage. So now let's move on to the rest of this forecast. For Futurecast, this is the first rendition that we have shown. Tomorrow morning, still humid with some clouds. Now here you can see some of those rain bands starting to come in, high temperatures in the 90s. And again, this forecast, don't quote it, but it does look to continue to take this up here. This time I think is a little too early, but this gives you a good idea of what Futurecast is painting, I should say, for what radar to look like. So don't take that verbatim and say it's going to look like that. That is just an idea of what the radar could be looking like, and we will be here throughout all of it on air and online to bring you the latest forecast updates. Brian.